About the oral immunotherapy for the Johnson grass, or a couple of them out. What's been your experience on that over the last year or so?
Well, we've continued to use it, and so far, at least the group that I've got on it, they're really doing well. They tend to get a few, again, because it's oral, you get a few more oral symptoms. In general, they do well. The biggest problem, again, is insurance coverage, I think, for most of ours. You identify a good patient, and then often, if their insurance doesn't allow them to go on it, and if the timing's wrong, you're not getting them 3 months before the season, then sometimes you occasionally won't necessarily get that response. But initially we're having problems early on with the insurance companies wanting to start it 3 months before, and they wouldn't let you continue it. Some of these problems are gradually getting worked through, but still, overall, we've got a small number of patients on it. The ones I've got on it are doing well, but I personally just have a very small number. I'd have to.
Yeah, I would agree with Dr. Gerber. I think all of us have very small numbers of patients on it. There are only 3 FDA-approved products that are sublingual right now. There's 2 for grass allergen and 1 for ragweed. And what we run in here in the Southeast is that when we test patients, we very, very rarely find people that are allergic to just one. So the thing that comes back is, as a patient, do you just want to take, a tablet for ragweed when you also have grass, tree, dust mite, and you can do allergy shots that can take care of all those. So, the majority of patients end up still going on allergy shots just because there's more evidence for the allergy shots, and the few studies that are out there comparing the two is that we still think that allergy shots are more efficacious than the sublingual is. So, a patient that's not willing to come in for shots, just has problems in the fall, then the ragweed product's a good product. One other thing I wanted to mention real quick, going back to Dr. Roop's talk, and I don't know if he mentioned this, we are still recruiting patients for the peanut patch study. So right now we're looking for patients 4 to 11, and we're the only place in the state that's doing the study right now. So if you have any kids in that age group, they still can get into that study. We have a few studies getting ready to start for atopic derm, for adolescents. We have some asthma studies going. If you have any questions about those, we do have a lot of studies that patients can go into.
Well, and also the other one that's getting ready to start is nasal polyps. The nasal polyp patients have a lot of trouble, especially if they've had multiple polyp surgeries already. So that's another study that's getting started as well.
Second question. Some of the immunotherapies that they're giving for rheumatoid arthritis, like Rituxan, has sent some people into remission. Are you seeing any of that with any of these other immunosuppressive therapies? With any of the products that you've been using that are new that are coming out on the market?
So I'm going to let Dr. Gerber answer that question. Some of you don't know that she's also boarded in pediatric rheumatology, so I'm going to turn that question. That's right up her alley.
Well, obviously you're asking about is some of our new drugs putting patients into remission yet? Well, I think on some of our therapies for asthma, unfortunately we aren't seeing them go into remission. They do seem to go into remission. We try to back off, and we have been able to stop drug like Xolair and stuff in it. But with some of the newer therapies, Nucala and the Sync Airs, it's just so early that we don't have a lot that we've, at this point, tried to back off on those patients at all. On the rituximide, like you said, it does cause patients to go nicely into remission. There are some problems, actually, with some of those patients in terms of allergies to that drug too. And with every new drug as it comes along, one of the things we've seen in our literature in the last year is actually how to evaluate if somebody gets into trouble with that drug too. So, obviously if somebody's failing a therapy like that, but they're anxious about going on to the next brightest available thing that's available, it needs to be evaluated. That's something that we probably will be looking at more in the future as well. Anyway, I hope that answered your question.
One other comment with that is we didn't talk much about Xolair, omalizumab. It also has an indication for chronic urticaria, and about 30% of patients in those studies did go into remission during those studies. So we think there may be a disease-modifying effect with that therapy.
One of the things that might help with that is this, is that like with the peanut studies, with the atopic derm studies, with the Nucalas and things like that, they actually impanel groups of scientists and clinicians to look at how are we going to get this to our patients, but when are we going to be able to back down, and how are we going to spread out the dosing. So that is now up front, because I think the cost issue, I mean, like Medicare came out not too long ago and said 70% of their costs are in these high cost medicines. So the whole point is how can we make it effective, but how can we back off on it? But as you saw, what we're putting in writing today represents a 5-year study. So some of these things we just started last year, and so right now, can we put food allergy in total remission, or can we just protect people from accidental ingestions? And the answer is first accidental ingestions, but we may be able to say that a few years down the road, but it'll take some time and it has to have numbers. And so that'll be an ongoing question. And again, with our atopic derm studies, they have so many people on this medicine, they're looking at spreading it out, and sometimes your data comes when people just start to stop it on their own, and you start to report in those cases too.
Maybe you're looking at the long-term costs, not just the immediate costs, but stuff does start looking at, because I have patients that have rheumatoid arthritis for 20 years, and the cost with that between torn tendons, that are rupturing, and all types of other things, the surgeries, and, all the medications and all this stuff, and then you take, you Rituxan for, say 24 to 36 months, and all that stops for 5, now I've got one patient for over 5 years, all of that's just totally gone now. Not only the lifestyle, but then all the medications and all the surgeries. And in the end, it's costing them less money than a simple deal like that.
Totally agree. Another question.
What's the cost of the nitric oxide testing, and is that something that I can do at my office or send to your office?
Yeah, so with nitric oxide, our cash price is, I think, $40. Medicaid covers it, Medicare covers it, United covers it. Unfortunately, our biggest insurer, Blue Cross Blue Shield, doesn't cover it. But many of the patients are willing to pay out of pocket since it's a lower cost test. So I'd say probably 60% of our patients it is covered for. Can you do it in your own office? Yeah, you just have to buy the machine and it's available. But yeah, it's available for anybody. You can just put it on your console if that's all you want to do. Just put that on there. Yeah, so the guidelines say, at least for your older population, that over 65 should have Pneumovax and Prevnar. So we're going back and looking to see if they haven't had Prevnar, and if they haven't, we found unfortunately that we weren't able to cover costs in our office, so we usually send a script to CVS or somewhere else, or to their primary care doctor to go get it. And I haven't had much. I haven't heard, most of my patients come back and get it, at one of those places. Yeah, so we do that. Sometimes I haven't seen much pushback, but we're not doing it in the office. So the only ones I see back are the ones that tell me they've gotten it or not. But we do, with any kind of chronic lung disease, getting Pneumovax or Prevnar can be definitely helpful.
We're certainly also, as a part of an immune workup, if we're looking at chronic infection, they're having a lot of sinus infection, bronchitis. A lot of times, if their pre-pneumococcal titers are done and they're low, and we vaccinate them, it's amazing. Since a lot of them are, if they're bacteria, are strep pneumoniae devised, often you'll cure them, especially with these better pneumonia vaccines that are now covering 13 and up to 23 serotypes, which is, out of the 50 that are potentially available to cause problems.
The nitric oxide testing you said helps you with compliance. Is that for steroids?
Yeah, so most of the studies are looking at with inhaled steroids. They've had multiple studies come out showing that inhaled steroids help lower the nitric oxide level. They have a few studies now out with omalizumab and some of the monoclonals saying that it also affects nitric oxide. So it mainly is with inhaled steroids. I think we have lunch ready. We will all be around to answer questions. I just want to thank you again for coming. The one thing I want to stress again is that any of us are more than happy to give, our cell phone number if you ever have questions and stuff. Like I said, my goal is to get the patients to get their best care. So sometimes they need to see us, sometimes they don't, and we're all more than willing to call up the office to answer questions. Keep in mind, I think places we really can help you out is with the allergy immunotherapy and your asthmatics, your atopic derm, your allergic rhinitis, allergic conjunctivitis patients. That's, I think, one place we can really help y'all out. If you're not using that in part of your treatment, keep that in mind. But we're going to have lunch. We'll be around. We're happy to answer any questions. Thanks.